Hello, once again, this is Joe Brand. Welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a long time. I was in teacher's leave, so now I'm back. So we're gonna start uploading a lot of videos for this semester. So thank you so much for waiting and thank you so much for subscribing. We've grown so far, we've grown so much, and thank you so much for all your support and for sending your likes, your for subscribing my channel, and for everything that you've done for this channel. So thank you so much. So for today's, I'll be explaining another video lesson. So we will talk about Philippine popular culture. So this is our subject. So this is our lesson number 7. Yeah, lesson number 7. So I've been teaching this subject for a long time now. So we will just continue some topics that I think it is more relevant for us to get to know a bit. So this is just a very quick video. So I'll be spending more or less 30 minutes of your time. So please do watch this video until the end. Okay, so let's start. So let's get back to business. So our lesson number 7 is we will talk about the new challenges to human adaptation and social change. Again, our topic today is our subtopic for today is all about the new challenges to human adaptation and social change. So, what is adaptation? Adaptation is our ability as a human to adapt to a certain situation, to adapt to a lot of things. So, according to research, adaptation refers to both a process and its outcome. So, but when you talk about adaptation, it is quite hard to adapt to a certain event or a situation, especially if you are not into it. So it is a process. It takes time to adapt. And a lot of people are also leading to a lot of interpretations and so much debate on how to adapt to a certain thing. So I also find it hard to adapt at times. So it's natural for us to be resistant to adapt. So let's get to know what is adaptation. So adaptation become a central concept in several major social disciplines. So adaptations, when you talk about adaptation, we're going to talk about some social disciplines. So one of the example of social disciplines is we have psychology. So I am a psychology graduate now. So I'm part of it, adaptation, anthropology, geography, as well as many fields of biology. So biology is the study of life. So I know you are all aware of that. So in each discipline, our environment, the place that you are into, our environment is strongly linked to the concept of adaptation. And that is very true. So when you talk about adaptation, you need also to consider the place that you are in, the people that you belong to, your environment played a very crucial part in adaptation. So we also have this called the climate change. So we also need to adapt to it, our climate today. Climate change has become one of the major topics concerned by adaptation. So if you're living here in the Philippines, you need to adapt that we are we are near the equator, no? So sometimes you're experiencing very hot weather. So it's not natural for us. So our body needs also to adapt to our weather. So when you are living in a Western country, your body also needs to adapt to it. Aside from the behavior, you also need to adapt as a human in relation to climate change. So human livings today can foresee the immediate rising. So there's a lot of changing weather patterns so associated with climate change. We're experiencing a lot of climate change. Sometimes we experience very hot weather, extreme coldness, extreme hotness, and our body needs to adapt to it. And we also, as humans, we also need to adapt to our very changing weather patterns. So, fortunately, as of today, we can forecast what will be our weather for next week, for this coming months. But in our early living thousands of years ago, they cannot forecast anything. So again, when you talk about we experiencing a lot of new challenges, so we need to incorporate culture when it comes to adaptation. So there are two requirements to be met for us to become adaptable. The first thing that we should remember is to see learning as an extension of the process of evolution. So we need to see that all these things that are happening to us today is one of the process of evolution. Evolution meaning we are changing. So we need to adapt. People are changing. Everybody is changing. Our climate is changing. People's behavior also changing. The environment is also changing. So we need to incorporate a lot of things. So the second requirement for us to understand human adaptation and social change is that we need to understand that there are specific components of human culture. There are specific components. I have my own culture. I have a specific requirements to that. I have a higher order of knowledge structure. I also have my social constructions. So that's why we need to meet halfway. As humans, we need to adapt to our environment, to adapt to what is happening today, our climate change. Our body needs to adapt to it. The behavior of the people, we also need to adapt. So human behavior is affected by a lot of things. For example, our genetic inheritance and experience. We are affected by a lot of things, especially our genes, our upbringings, family's upbringing. So, and our experiences, life experiences, we are affected by that. The ways in which people develop are shaped by our social experience and circumstances. So, aside from our genetic makeup, our human behavior is also influenced by our social experiences and life circumstances. So, as they say, as some psychologists would say, that it would be better for a person to experience a lot of things, to fully grow as a human person by socializing with others. So there's also a true about it. So the scientific question is how experience and heredity potential interact in producing human behavior. So how these two things affect us. So each person, like me, each person is born into a social and cultural setting. We are born with having a family, having a brother or sister. We are born with having a community, a good community. We are born with our religion, language. I am a Bisaya, so I talk Bisaya. I also try to speak in English, in Tagalog. So we are born into a lot of social and cultural setting and eventually develop many social connections. So if you are very friendly, you can build a lot of social connections. So, but there are also people who are developing a lot of social connections with other people. So the characteristic of a child's social setting affect how or she learns, think, and so there are people who are good in interacting with other people. There are people who are good in socializing, the social intelligence. So the more you socialize, the more you are able to socialize with others, to understand others, despite of our human differences, the more you are capable of adjusting yourself to it. So everything that we experience, problems, life circumstances, it affects how we see things. It affects how we learn to think and behave. So by means of instruction, by means of rewards and punishment. So this setting includes home, we have the school that you are in, the neighborhood, and perhaps local religious and law enforcement agencies. Again, our behaviors affected by a lot of things. We are not just affected by our environment, but a lot of social and cultural settings. The way we are raised by our parents, and that is also very important, and the environment that you are in. So as what you notice, no, when we were a child, we do a lot of informal interaction with our friends. We learn from them, we socialize with them, we love to be with them. And sometimes our behavior tends to be predictable, but sometimes we are influenced by a lot of things. So there are some cultures, our friends, they also have their own personal culture, and sometimes we follow, and sometimes those behavior embedded in our human mind that we are not aware that we are changing. So every culture includes a different web of patterns and meanings. So again, we are different in a lot of ways because we are our culture. I have my culture, you also have your culture. Every culture includes a somewhat different web of patterns and meanings. We have different ways of earning a living, correct? We also have a different ways of trade and government, social roles, religions, traditions in clothing and foods, expectation of behavior, attitudes towards other culture. That's why we also experience a lot of clashes of culture because again, we are living in a different we are influenced by a lot of things like our genetic, our environment, um our informal interaction. So it's natural for us to have that kind of um resistance when it comes to adaptation. So again, human, we are living in a larger society, and part of that society we also have some groups, and the member of that groups may also have different subcultures. So we are living in a bigger phase, in a bigger society, we are into it, and then the members of that bigger society we also have is called differences in culture. So if a single culture is dominant in a large region, its values may be correct and may be promoted not only by families and religious group but also by schools and government. So what is the most dominant culture here in the Philippines? So we are very respectful church. So that is our culture. So that culture is embedded into our human mind that we need to follow. And we will pass that culture from one generation to the next generation. So we are living in a larger society, and we are pursuing a dominant culture that is going to church and valuing family traditions, valuing our family values. So that's our culture. It is embedded already in our human mind that when we grow old, we will pass that culture from one generation to the next generation. So that's the idea of human adaptation and social change. So we also experience a lot of class distinction when it comes to culture. So we classify ourselves in the basis of our wealth, education, occupation, but they are also likely to be associated with other subcultural differences. So again, we have our distinction. We are influenced by a lot of subcultures, especially when we go to school. We encounter a lot of friends. Our friends, they also have their own culture. Part of it is also have their own subculture. That's why social intelligence is very important nowadays. There will be clashes of thoughts or knowledge, but at the end of the day, it's part of our human adaptation. So this school, we encounter a lot of people, a lot of friends, and your friends will also have their own culture at home, at their in their environment, and pass that culture from one generation to the next. So what is considered to be acceptable human behavior? So what is considered to be acceptable human behavior? Again, the answer is it varies from culture to culture and from time period to time period. So what is considered adaptable human behavior? You will tell me that your behavior is good, mine is not good. So how will you accept that? Again, based on research, the answer it varies from culture to culture and from time period to time period. So it depends on the culture that you are pursuing, that you are practicing. And it will also depend from time period to time period. So it will change the same as our environment, the same as the feelings that we are in. So unusual behaviors may be considered either merely amusing or we don't like it. Some normal behavior in one culture may be considered unacceptable in another. So, for example, aggressive competitive behavior, maybe we consider that in the here in the Philippines as being rude or not a good trait, but you are living in a highly competitive society like in the Western group. Um, if you are not like that, if you are not competitive, if you are not aggressively competitive, so it shows that you are a person who's lack of interest in competition, and you will be regarded as out of step. So you are not part of the society because they are very competitive. And here in the Philippines, we are very shy in showing our talent, our skills, our abilities. So sometimes it differs from what is acceptable behavior to you, maybe not be acceptable behavior to me. So if people perceive relevant changes in their environment, they adapt their behavior to meet the new challenges or to benefit from new chances. So, so if people perceive relevant changes in their environment, they adapt their behavior to meet the new challenges or to benefit from new chances. So humans learn to modify their behavior. And when you talk about behavior, I also commit mistakes. I am human. Sometimes I refuse to adapt to a certain thing, especially if I am not comfortable adapting to it. So perceive, if people perceive that changing that kind of behavior is very important to me or it will make me grow as a person, I will also adapt to change. So humans modify behavior to suit new conditions. So we can modify, we can change, we can adapt. So they may try to be more cautious if charges are perceived as having dangerous impact, or they may try to capitalize on new possibilities to meet own aims more effectively. So again, we adapt, we change, we modify, but if we think that it is a very dangerous change, so we also become more cautious. No, we think carefully. We are very careful on what to do because we know that it's a bit dangerous or it's there might be some impact. So this described as behavioral adaptation, risk compensation, or rebound effect. So for example, I am not used in doing going to the mountain, no, to do the hiking. No, I am not comfortable doing that thing. But if my friends are going that, no, are doing that, I can also modify some of my behavior, trying to adapt. But I will be much careful because I know I am not comfortable doing that thing. So it's natural. It's part of our human adaptation and social change. So in any culture, there is majority and many minorities. So culture is a set of norms that set standards for a society of what is acceptable behavior. So in a culture, culture is a set of norms. We have our own culture. So if you do that, it is acceptable behavior. So if you transfer to another country, they also have their own culture. So they also have a set of norms. So if you are migrating to another country, no, you are not allowed to visit without again. So culture is a set of norms. We have a set of norms, set of standards of our society, what is acceptable behavior. So when we visit our grandparents, we need to bless, we need to kiss to forehead, we need to be respectful, we need to be friendly. So that is our culture. So in every culture, there are a basic standards for social interaction, such as personal space distance, establishing eye contact, amount of body language. So here in the Philippines, we are very sweet. We are very close to our families. We are very funny. Even if we're experiencing a lot of trials, difficulties, we are still smiling. So that is our culture, and you cannot take that away from us because it is already embedded in our human mind that despite of the typhoon that we are experiencing recently, it was hard. People are suffering, but Pinoy, they always find a way to laugh, to enjoy, and to smile. So that is part of our human culture. That's how we adapt. Still, Pinoy, we are still looking at the bright side of the coin. So there are three branches of human sciences. So there are three branches of human sciences, of human social sciences. We have the sociology, anthropology, and psychology. So these three branches of human sciences, they are interlinked and that they try to describe the different areas of human life. Psychology is the study of human mind. Sociology is the study of our society. So they are interlinked to understand the different areas of human life and their relationship to each other. They offer an explanation on human behavior and they offer an explanation on human behavior and in the society they live. So we need to connect the way we think and the place that we are into because possibly the place that we are into our society also affects on how we think. So they are interlinked. So furthermore, these social sciences provide essential skills in analyzing the intentions and behavior of individuals and groups they encounter. Again, your environment is very important in shaping what you think and what you perceive. So they are interlinked with one another. So if you want to have a good society, like if you are into going to church, you need to find a society that would suit your condition, that would suit your culture. So we have a choice on how to do human adaptation. It is our choice to choose our friends. It is our choice to do social change. So if that is benefiting you, then you can modify it. If it's not benefiting you, then you can resist to it. So that is part of human adaptation. So sometimes it's quite hard to do this, but again, these are the challenges that we are experiencing as humans. Everyday challenge. So, in discussing cultural diversity on the perspective of the three social sciences, there is a need to understand the difference. We need to understand the difference between culture and society. This is because all these three disciplines explore culture and society to understand human behavior in. So again, it's quite difficult to understand humans. We need to study the anthropological perspective of cultural diversity. Next is the sociological perspective on cultural diversity. And the last that we need to understand is the psychological perspective on cultural diversity. So again, we will continue this discussion next meeting, next video. So I'll be explaining to you more what is anthropological perspective, psychological perspective, and psychological and sociological perspective. So we are living in a very diverse culture. We are now living with a lot of diversity when it comes to human behavior. And part of that diversity is we are experiencing a lot of challenges to human adaptation and social change. That's why if you cannot adapt to the changes that we are into the environment, you will you will find it hard to blend. You will find it hard to be with others. Um, you will find yourself out of the out of step. So that's why we need to understand what is really going on with us when it comes to human adaptation and social change. Don't worry, I also experienced that. I find it hard to adapt, especially if I am not comfortable. I am not comfortable talking to somebody. So I think we just need to process because again, adaptation is a process and a concept. But we can change that. We can change, we can modify, we can blend in. But it depends, diba? It depends. It varies from culture to culture and it varies from time period to time period. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope you are learning for today's video. I will be discussing more next meeting. I hope this is our lesson number 7. So I will be posting uh, next meeting, I think tomorrow, lesson 7.1, just to continue this topic. I am hoping that you get something out of this very quick discussion. I'll see you again for my next video blog. Thank you and God bless you.